I broke a rule I didn't understand. He told me not to check behind the freezer. I checked anyway. Now everything in the store acts like it knows my name. The rule was handwritten on a grease-spotted notepad by the time clock. Don't move the pallets, don't stack milk on the third shelf, don't answer line 3 after 3:12 a.m., and, in bigger letters, don't check behind the freezer. Dennis underlined that one twice. He tapped the paper with a nicotine yellow finger and said, "I'm serious, kid." I laughed because the compressor already sounded like a chain smoker. He didn't. He worked nights at Kelley's market for 7 years and looked like he hadn't slept through a thunderstorm in 8. His keys clinked like a wind chime, a sound I can hear now without hearing it, like a phantom ringtone. He said the hum would change before anything else, and if it did, I was to take my breaks in the front office under the convex mirror and pretend not to notice. I started on a Tuesday, November 1st, snowfall threatening but not committed. The night shift there is a loop. Face the shelves, sweep the aisles, dump the mop water that always smells faintly sweet like antifreeze, check the walk-in milk cooler, and ignore the way the convex mirror warps you into someone with longer arms. By midnight, the highway thins to delivery trucks and empty buses headed south. The back door groans under the weather strip whenever a gust comes through the loading bay. I told myself the wind was a person with bad lungs. I told myself a lot of things to make the hours pass. Dennis took his lunch at 2 a.m. every time, in the office with the space heater pointed at his knees. He offered me half a sandwich and said, without smiling, "If it knocks under the hum, don't open anything." I asked what it was, and he stared at the clock like it would answer for him. "Everything in here hums," he said finally. Coolers, lights, soda machine. If you hear a knock that sits under it like it wears the hum the way you wear your coat, you don't open any door. You don't look behind anything. You wait it out. If the hum stops, you go to the office and turn on the radio. Loud. Then he changed the subject to cigarette cartons and how the Marlboro reps lie about shortages. That first week, nothing much happened besides the kind of weird that floats at the edge of tiredness. A spill of sugar that looked like a footprint until I turned my head. A call that sounded like static breathing, then cut when I said hello. The hum of the freezer was a body temperature sound, almost comfortable once you tuned it out. On Friday at 3:17 it leveled out, same volume, new shape. I knew what he meant as soon as it happened. Imagine your own name said by someone with your mouth but not your lungs. The hum was still there, but something sat under it, like a second voice humming through my skull. Then the softest knock, not on wood, not on metal but on air pressed thin. 3-1-3. I looked at the office door and didn't move. The knock came again, closer to the produce case this time, then behind the fountain machine, then right against the walk-in cooler as if the sound could walk. I stared at the convex mirror. Aisle 4 bent like a grin. I could see the top of the freezer and the dust line where the wall met the back of the unit. Nothing moved. The back hallway smelled like old lemons and coil dust. I told myself it was just pipes. I lasted maybe 10 minutes before I talked out loud, just to myself, just to make a human sound that wasn't borrowed from a machine. "Not opening," I said. "Not tonight." The third time it knocked, it added a hitch like a breath before the last tap. 3-1-3, then a tiny scrape like a fingernail on paint. In the morning I told Dennis I heard it and did what he said. He looked relieved like I had carried a package for him. "Good," he said. "Good. It learns slow when you don't feed it." He rubbed his thumb hard under his eye and glanced at the convex mirror, like he expected it to answer back. On Saturday we had a rush at bar close and then nothing until 2:14, when line 3 rang once and died. The freezer hum changed again. I was stocking ice cream when I saw, in the mirror, a new dark seam between the back of the freezer and the wall. A line where dust had been rubbed clean by something with patience. You don't notice a change like that unless you've been staring at the same square of dirt all week. At 2:57 I heard my name in the compressor, not as a word, but as the way someone breathes between your name syllables. I pretended to count cartons. My hands shook only when I looked at them. I told myself nothing alive could fit behind there. The clearance is less than a foot, and the back wall is cinder block, cool and gritty when you lean against it to reach the top shelf. I dusted that line with a rag and black came away clean, like I'd wiped a chalkboard where a finger had trailed. Somewhere a fan blade clicked, not on beat with anything else. Line 3 blinked once like an eye testing whether I was still looking. I told myself I wasn't checking. I was cleaning. I slid the freezer forward just enough to slip 2 fingers behind it. Cold licked my knuckles. The space wasn't a space. It was a throat. Air moved toward me like a patient inhale. Something on the other side paused to listen first. I yanked my fingers back. The cold coming out of that slot was not coil cold. Tasted like outside. Carried a smell I could not place. Damp like leaf mold. Not bleach. The hum lifted. Thin as a breath held too long. I walked to the office without deciding to. Closed the door, and turned the radio to full. The speaker rattled. The station lurched between a farm report and hiss. Under it I heard my own voice, a smear of vowels from earlier, saying not opening. I shut it off. The knock answered once from behind produce. Line 3 blinked its yellow LED and died before a second ring. I sat in the chair under the convex mirror and watched my warped reflection breathe. The mirror is aimed down the main aisle, but from the office you can catch the top of the freezer between 2 stacks of paper towels. I saw the rag I left on the corner, dark with dust. I also saw a hand still resting in the gap. Mine was on my lap. The glass made it far away, slow, like watching weather move. I stood. The hand in the mirror did not. In the morning Dennis came in early, eyes red, coffee from the bun burned thin. He looked at my fingers before he looked at me. You touched it, he said, like he was identifying a stain. I said I cleaned dust. He set his keys on the desk and lined them by size, the way he always did when his hands shook. He told me to take lunch at 1, not 2. He told me if the hum stopped I was to go to the office, turn on the radio, and read the weather aloud. He did not ask why. He left at dusk to smoke and stayed gone. I faced the chips and restocked milk. The third shelf bowed like a warning. At 1 I ate in the office with the space heater pointed at my knees. There was a new line on the notepad by the clock. Same handwriting. Fresh ink. If the hum changes twice in 1 hour, do not answer anyone who knows your name. The word anyone was underlined. I had not told Dennis the hum had said my name without words. I traced the underline with my finger and the paper felt cold again. The 214 line 3 rang once and quit. The freezer changed note like a plane banking. I walked to the end of aisle 4 and pretended to stock oatmeal. The convex mirror showed me at the office desk, mouth moving. I was not speaking. I could see the plastic badge on my shirt, matte glint under the lights, the part where my last name has begun to wear white. My hand signed the air like it was writing. The radio in the office clicked on by itself and hissed. The knock came under everything, patient 313, then scraped closer. I rolled the mop bucket to the freezer and set the yellow sign like I meant to clean. The case is a true model with wheels under the frame. I slid a flat pry bar under the corner and levered. The compressor chattered like it had grit in its teeth. The gap widened. Cold rolled out and with it a smell like wet cardboard left in a church basement. My phone flashlight showed cinder block, then a darker seam that did not catch light right. Something white was stuck against it. A folded receipt, pinned by dust. I reached and pulled. The paper was stiff with cold and oil. It was a register receipt from our lane, narrow, with our address and the NCR header. The date was tomorrow. The items were blank. Subtotal 0. At the bottom where the coupon prints, there was a message in all caps. Do not check behind the freezer. Under that, a line of text like a name tag. Thank you, then my name spelled right. The ink had not smudged. I flipped it over. On the back, ballpoint listed knocks and times and next to 313, just one word. Listening. For me. The hum fell away as if someone took a hand off the top of my head. The silence hurt. I forgot to breathe. I walked to the office with the receipt in my pocket and turned the radio all the way up. A weather guy described sleet northeast of the county line. Under him I heard a second station, half a breath behind, and then my own voice, close, saying the line from the note. Do not check. Line 3 rang once, then again. My hand picked up. The line was open. I heard myself ask, are you listening now? I walked back slow. The gap was wider than physics and not by much, wide enough for a shoulder turned sideways. Cold roped along the floor. I crouched and put my face close and said the first thing that felt human. I am not opening. Breath came from the dark, warm for a second, like an animal testing a trap. Then I saw light inside that was not my light. The office lamp glowed from an angle that made no sense. I saw the chair, the space heater, the notepad, and a man at the desk. He looked like me. He lifted his head like he felt my eyes. His mouth moved and the radio in the office carried it as a second echo. I heard my voice ask myself to listen. The hum came back, wearing my cadence. Sugar on aisle 1 had been brushed into letters while I was at the gap. Hi. Then name. I shoved the freezer with my shoulder until the rollers squealed and the seam closed a thumb width at a time. The knock pressed through the metal, patient, polite. I went to the notepad and wrote the rule larger. It is my turn.